Winter is coming.
Might just be the cold.
Winter is coming.
It's cold outside.
You don't know cold.
Winter is coming for him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
And winter is coming.
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
That's cold.
Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
Winter is coming.
You're crying because you're cold?
You're a long way from home. And winter is coming.
I imagine you might be rather cold.
And winter is coming.
No, that's all right, I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
There it is. Winter is coming and winter is here. And winter, of course, is Russ Winter, our good friend who joins us on the first Friday of every month. And we roll up our sleeves. We get kind of down and dirty and go where a lot of other podcasts don't dare to go. And Russ, welcome back to the show. Good to see you again.
Yeah, we won't start with sports this time. That kind of got us in trouble with some people.
Yeah, man. I mean, I could say a lot about that, but I have no comment.
Yeah,
so,
it's not worth discussing.
We'll just move on.
Yep.
So we are going to kind of go back in and sort of pull away the rubble and find out what's going on in Gaza, Israel, because this is something that you are pretty much up to the minute on and are an incredible source of information in terms of where things are headed and on the ground footage that a lot of people don't get to see, some don't want to see. But we're going to go there again. But before we get into all that, I kind of want to take a step back and kind of dive into the history of this thing, because I had sent you that clip from the newspaper. The newspaper itself, I think, was from 1974. Let me see if I can find that. It's right here. Yeah. So this is from Hagerstown, Maryland. And I thought to myself, well, look, the reason why I saw this was because I was cruising around and I was looking at images from either the Irgun or the Stern gangs, who were sort of these two very early occupying forces in Israel, who, for all intents and purposes, were terrorists. And I saw this this news article from 1972. Let me see if I can bring it up here. And I had sent it to you, and I asked you if you had known about this, and you said yes. And not only that, but you had some other information on it. And the reason it really grabbed my attention was that Truman comes, we're talking about Harry Truman now, who comes out of the Kansas City area, and he is Truman is a tailor, right? I think he has some law background, but he's commonly known as a haberdasher and has a lot of connections with the haberdashers of Kansas City. He's also a Freemason. He's also a Shriner, probably connections to B'nai B'rith as well. So you can look at Truman and kind of, who was lifting him up on his ascent to the presidency. And I think one of the deals was that he was supposed to recognize Israel when it became a quote unquote nation state. And that was in 1948. And this is from 1947.
Well, Truman, his haberdasher partner, one of his best friends, was Jewish, and so yeah, he was a turtle on a fence pole, but he kind of had a conscience, and so he kind of resisted the idea of just carte blanche giving it Israel's statehood in the early part of this drama that you're talking about. So they had to lean on him a little bit.
So these were letter bombs that were sent to him by the Stern Gang, who was named after their leader. And I just thought this was it. I had never known it. I knew about the connections, and I knew that was kind of his appointed role, but I never knew about the harassment and the intimidation that was taking place here. You got some other pieces around.
Well, like I say, he went off the reservations for a while, and a couple of his key advisors, specifically George Marshall. George Marshall just resigned when he saw they were going to grant Israel statehood. He just says, "I'm done. I'm not going to be your Secretary of State." So he resigned. But then you had the equivalent to Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense hadn't been formed yet, and that was James Forrestal. And that was a Zionist assassination.
And for people who don't know who James Forrestal is, he was ultimately put under observation. At Bethesda? Is that right?
Yeah, I have an older article called "The Case of James Forrestal," and the takedown of real America Firsters. And so, let's see. This is. First, I talk about Inman. Inman was another. They just take these guys down. If somebody goes off the farm on their agenda, they take them down. There was Admiral Bobby Inman, who was CIA director or former deputy director in the CIA under Carter. So I go into
Bobby Ray Inman. Yeah,
Bobby Ray Inman. But anyway, as far as Forrestal urged Truman to take a hard line with the Soviets over Poland. And he also strongly influenced the new Wisconsin Senator James McCarthy concerning the infiltration of the government by communists. And in McCarthy's words, before meeting with James Forrestal, I thought we were losing to international communism because of incompetency and stupidity on the part of our planners. I mentioned that to Forrestal, and shall never forget his answer. He said, "McCarthy, consistency has never been a mark of stupidity. If they were merely stupid, they would occasionally make a mistake in our favor." And so Forrestal was not buying into the bogus Hanlon's razor, never attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity. And so during private cabinet meetings with Truman in 46 and 47, Forrestal favored a federalization plan for Palestine, which at first Truman concurred. Then Truman received threats to cut off his campaign contribution from wealthy donors, as well as hate mail and an assassination attempt. Assassination attempt was masked as a bunch of Puerto Ricans showed up at the White House, and they actually gunned some of them down right on the White House lawn.
Wow.
Appalled by the intensity and implied threat over the partition question, Forrestal stated to Howard McGrath, senator from Rhode Island, "No group in this country should be permitted to influence our policy to the point it could endanger our national security." And then he had this diary that he was keeping, and you want to go through that?
Yeah. So here it says February 3rd, I wish I could do a Truman voice. February 3rd, 1948. Visit today from Franklin Roosevelt Jr.
This is Forrestal.
Oh, this is Forrestal. Oh, I'll do a more manly thing. Visit today from Franklin D. Roosevelt Jr., who came in with strong advocacy of a Jewish state in Palestine. So they're already preloading this thing, right? That we should support the United Nations decision. I pointed out that the United Nations had as yet taken no decision, that it was only a recommendation of the General Assembly, and that I thought that the methods that have been used by people outside of the executive branch of the government to bring coercion and duress on other nations, and the General Assembly bordered closely onto scandal. I said I was merely directing my efforts to lifting the question out of politics. That is to have the two parties agree that they would not compete for votes on the issue. He said this was impossible, that the nation was too far committed, and that furthermore, the Democratic Party would be bound to lose and the Republicans gain by such an agreement. I said I was forced to repeat to him what I had said to Senator McGrath in response to the latter's observation that our failure to go along with the Zionists might lose the states of New York, Pennsylvania, and California, that I thought it was about time that somebody should pay some consideration to whether or not we might not lose the United States. The entry for February 3rd, 1948, that's just like tomorrow, right? I mean, today's the 2nd. So we're almost in a...
Like later in the day. Yeah, same, another entry, right? Yeah.
Yeah, had lunch with that's Bernard Baruch, huh? B.M. Baruch.
Right. Yeah, the heavy hitter, Zionist, influencer under Roosevelt. You know, he actually ran Roosevelt.
So have you heard the theory that the Manhattan Project was called the Manhattan Project because it was run out of New York by Bernard Baruch? Have you heard that?
No, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. After lunch raised the same question with him, he took the line of advising me not to be active in this particular matter, and that I was already identified to a degree that was not in my own interest with opposition to the United Nations policy on Palestine. So he's being threatened.
Well, it gets worse. So let's go ahead and let's go through this whole story because it really points out a lot. And we're kind of seeing some of this today. You know, we're kind of seeing it with this attack on UNRWA, where they're kind of making up a bunch of shit about some UNRWA staff people that are part of Hamas. Well, even if they were Hamas, these guys have day jobs, right?
Yeah. I mean, I thought when I saw that headline, it'd be a good talking point to see some of the really faulty foundational stuff around all of this. So where does this thing go?
Well, I sent some stuff to you about the whole Israel First funding. We're going to go through that.
Okay, we'll do that. So eventually, let's go to this part. Ultimately, Forrestal fell from a 16th floor window at the Bethesda Naval Hospital. Drew Pearson, he was a columnist back in the day, ran more.
They did hit pieces on him, so he was just kind of in the way. So they just slandered him. So he got warned by Baruch, stay away from this man, and then he didn't. And then a campaign of unparalleled slander was launched in the U.S. press against him, and it was led by a notorious rumor and Jewish gossip monger, Walter Winchell. Walter Winchell was a hit man all the time on this type of stuff, just a total hatchet man. And then they had this other guy, this other character, Shabbos Goy character, Drew Pearson, who were, key influencers in the media. So in January 1949, Pearson related that Forrestal's wife had been the victim of a holdup back in 1937 and falsely suggested that Forrestal had run away, leaving his wife defenseless. So Forrestal resigned as Secretary of Defense, but he was kind of like Patton. He was a wealthy man in his own right.
Forrestal had an impeccable record too. I mean, this is the guy that kind of had heroic status in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
that was his background.
He was instrumental in building up the Navy. He was a very effective functionary during World War II. Excellent Secretary of Defense, but he was pro-American. He looked at America first. So he decided he was going to start a journalistic endeavor with America First leanings. Well, you can't do that. So then a few days later, the claim was made that he had a nervous breakdown, which was denied by Forrestal's brother. He was administered narcosis with sodium amytal and a regimen of insulin. According to the assigned doctor, the patient overreacted and was thrown into a confused state with a great deal of agitation and confusion. Well, you gave him insulin? Why?
Yeah, spike his blood sugar.
Ultimately, Forrestal fell from the 16th floor window at Bethesda Navy Hospital. See, the whole thing that he went into, his brother wanted him to take him to a private hospital.
Right.
But the intelligence agent grabbed him up, even though he was no longer Secretary of Defense and no longer affiliated with the government, and stuck him in Bethesda against the wishes of his brother. So that's suspicious right there. And then Drew Pearson ran a bunch of phony lies that Forrestal was suicidal, and he made 4 previous suicide attempts. Another dubious Jewish historian, Arthur Ragau, continued this fictitious account of his death and character assassination with the well-worn anti-Semitic nut and paranoid conspiracy theorist accusation. So I write here, Rogau's travesty, quote-unquote book, is a case study in lies and hatchet jobs. It can be read here. So if anybody wants to read his book, I've got the link to it. The Wolcott report in 2004 was finally declassified and exposes these fabricators on the particulars of Forrestal's murder. And if you read through it while thinking critically, the whole scene reeks of skullduggery and storytelling. Well, this is fast forward to today, their character assassinating South Africa from bringing genocides against them. This is how they roll. Maybe we're finally at a time where we can speak a little bit more openly about it. I've done the work on it.
Well, that's why we have you here on Fridays, because we want to be able to discuss these things in a fair and open manner and shed some light on it. So,
well, the big reveal is that his quote unquote care at Bethesda, where he shouldn't even have been, was administered by an MK Ultra psychiatrist by the name of Winfred Overhauser. And I mentioned him on some of my work that I've done, articles I've done on MK Ultra. Why would they bring an MK Ultra guy in to treat Forrestal? He was the operative who ran the St. Elizabeth Hospital in Washington, D.C. He specialized in involuntary psychiatry, LSD research, truth drugs, and was at the center of the mind control network. There were other sensitive federal cases that were kept during Overhauser's tenure, such as the poet Ezra Pound.
I was going to say Ezra Pound, St. Elizabeth.
Yeah, he was in there under his care. Illegally committed for Axis and anti-Semitic sympathies during World War II. John Hinckley Jr. There's a strange story.
For sure. Yeah.
When he was committed against his wishes, Forrestal was a private citizen. Okay, I already mentioned that. And he was surrounded. They just surrounded him with these Zionist Jewish moles. A guy named Marx Leva was assigned as assistant. And so Henry Forrestal is his brother, tried several times to see his brother James in the hospital, refused visiting rights by both Dr. Raines and the acting commandant, Captain Hogan. He finally managed to see his brother briefly after he had informed Hogan that he intended to go to the newspapers, and after he threatened legal action against the hospitals. Henry Forrestal, the brother, stated that when he was finally allowed to see his brother, he found James acting and talking as sanely and intelligently as any man I've ever known. Henley tried to persuade Raines to allow his best friend and Catholic priest, Father Morris Shealy, to visit, but Raines turned Shealy away on 6 different occasions. But guess who he did let visit him? The next paragraph, drum roll. Despite the difficulties people close to Forrestal had in gaining access, Zionist minion and waterboy Congressman Lyndon Baines Johnson saw Forrestal in the hospital. Why? To deliver
Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Yeah.
There it is.
And no friend of Forrestal. He didn't like him. They were 2 real hard-headed personalities, and Forrestal probably told him to go screw himself. What are you doing here, LBJ? And you're not letting my best friend, my brother, in here?
He was such a piece of shit. So
anyway, the final story of this strange tale is you got tossed out the 16th floor window after LBJ left.
And none of that made any sense based on the sheets and the whole like hanging out the window made no sense either. Like across the hall and like a bunch of weird stuff, right?
Oh yeah, it was just nothing to see here. Move along type of story. It's just been kind of buried.
What's interesting about this, Russ, is the role that these columnists played back then, right? Yeah. Like so you had Drew Pearson, Walter Winchell. I'm sure there's many more. Dorothy Kilgallen, Kitty Kelly. Dorothy Kilgallen wound up getting killed because she was investigating the JFK assassination.
Yeah, I got an article on that too.
Yeah. So
she was a friend. She was a friend of Kennedy and just didn't like the narrative, so they had to get rid of her. She got off the wagon. You can't go off the wagon. They'll warn you, a couple times, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what they did. They had these major newspapers, Washington Post, LA Times, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, and these columnists were nationally syndicated. So their opinion pieces were showing up in all the papers all across the country. And that's what really, kind of created the New York Times culture that ultimately became sort of like the the voice of authority in some ways, right? The first and last stop for news. That's where it all, obviously there were other people who were writing and doing all kinds of things prior to that. But during that time, these columnists really had, and by the way, a lot of those columnists too also had radio spots that they would get on the radio, and didn't Walter Winchell do like trailers for movies and cinema, right? There would be Walter Winchell, like This Week in the News and shit like that. So he was kind of cross-platformed, and yeah, that's how they steered public opinion during that time.
Yeah, and they give him assignments like the Forrestal, go and do a hatchet job on him. You got to make an example out of him. So once he went down, the word went out. Once you send letter bombs to Truman, the word went out, and through all that, there was a lot of terrorism involved in the state of Israel, even before they went out and just stole all the land from the Palestinians. Even before that, in the run-up to establishing that state, compromise, hatchet jobs.
Abraham Stern was like, he was there. He died in 1942, but he had already established the Stern Gang there prior to that, right?
Yeah, they basically targeted the British because there's a British, I don't know what the term for, protectorate or something.
Yeah,
the British planning on getting out.
Yeah,
and the British thought they could just get out without making any decisions. Some kind of a status quo. Just let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, good luck.
And the Stern Gang basically pushed him out even faster. Kind of forced the British hand to get out of there, so that they could get the Israelis could get their people in there and start overrunning the country.
The follow-up to this, the Stern Gang, was the Irgun, IRGUN gang. And I think they're the ones that were responsible for the bombing at the King David Hotel, right? Irgun?
Yeah, I think it was the hangings of the British soldiers.
Right, really, really heavy stuff. This is
whole history. Yeah, the whole history. But the thing is, we've got so much now that people refuse to look at. I'm not saying people refuse to. People are looking at it. But when we started this exercise on Gaza, I told the audience, this isn't going to be no blitzkrieg. This is going to drag out. It's going to drag out. It's going to end up being costly for the Israelis too. And kind of looking like I've been right. The only thing we're kind of really waiting on is the war with Hezbollah and Iran, and that seems to be coming real soon.
All right, you got a lot of stuff queued up here, so why don't we kind of jump into this? All right.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at since we're kind of talking about this terrorism, and let's take a look at the story about the death squads in West Bank murdering those 3 militia guys that were in the hospital. You see that one?
Is it one of the ones that's queued or is it pre-queue?
It's queued.
Okay, let me find it.
It's a Jake Shield tweet. So what happened is that they showed up with a little crew of Shin Bet. Shin Bet is the Israeli assassination team or death squads. And they've been threatening to send those people all over the world. They've got a big, long list of people they're going to go after. And there's no rules of law, no rule of law. This all extrajudicial stuff. War crimes, what's that? They don't even care about that.
No, out the door.
You got 3 guys that are just sitting in this hospital in Jenin in West Bank, not Gaza, West Bank, that were apparently militia that had been wounded in some way. One guy was in a coma. These guys are no longer combatants. So it's a war. If you were a combatant and now you're wounded and injured and pretty much knocked out of action and unarmed, it's a war crime to just go in and murder you. It's like a triple war crime because they went into a hospital, which is supposed to be off limits.
Yeah, here it is, right here. This is the.
And then they brag about it. I mean, I go to these Israeli sites where they're just bragging about it. They're not denying anything. They're right out in the open celebrating this stuff.
It's right here. Is this the one you're looking at right here? This one?
Yeah, that's them going into the hospital. That's one. Okay.
Let's watch this. So here they are.
Dressed up as hospital workers.
Hospital workers.
That's a war crime.
What is it with this guy with the wheelchair? Oh man, that is so duplicitous. Look at that. He's got an automatic rifle and a wheelchair. All right, here we go.
Okay, let's go to the part. Let's go to the one. Let's go to the Jake Shield one because it shows what they did to these 3 young men.
Okay,
they dressed them up. They went to the trouble of going in there, murdering them, and then dressing them up in Hamas costumes and posing them like some friggin' serial killer. Doing a trophy shot of their victims.
I think that post has been removed. Let me go back in here. So here's the one, Jake Shields, you have. And it says the post is unavailable. They took it down.
It's around. It's too bad we can't see it the way they posed them.
So what did they
do? See right down there below it? This Israeli site. It's called Open Intel. The Open Intel site. He's got it because he was.
Let's see.
He was yucking it up. He thought this was really funny.
Is that here? Is it on here?
Let's see if I can find it.
Let me do this. Open source intel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a couple of his posts up there because they just brag about what they're doing. So this is really a good source because it's an Israeli or Zionist source, and they're just totally unapologetic about these war crimes.
So he has the hospital footage.
Oh, he doesn't have the killing footage. Oh, okay. So anyway, basically they killed him in cold blood and posed him.
Maybe it's better that people don't see that.
Yeah.
But that's what they were doing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Not so interesting.
So that's basically Shin Bet. That's Shin Bet operation. So we can flip over and do. Here's a typical the bombing of the Belgian Agency Development Office in Gaza. Do you see that down there near the bottom?
Let me go into the messages. Okay.
So as you recall, there was kind of a big diplomatic thing to get all these European countries to go on board of cutting off the funding of UNRWA. UNRWA is the major release organization in Gaza that's trying to get what little supplies and relief they have out to the Gazans.
Yeah.
So then they come up with this story. First they said the 13 members of the UNRWA were important Hamas operatives. And then the story was reduced to 4. But meanwhile, they got all these European countries to cut off their funding of the main relief organization in Gaza. But one of them that didn't go along was Belgium. We'll see look what happened to Belgium.
Look at that. So this is exactly what we're talking about with Truman and the letter bombs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. They bombed just like within days after they voted no. We're keeping the support. They bombed their offices. They didn't just bomb them, they just razed it to the ground. Look at the picture.
It sends a message, doesn't it?
Yep. Forrestal, Truman, the Stern gang. You got these guys are really the true terrorists, especially when it really gets on the line. Then they go nuts. And I got to admit, they're under the gun right now. So you're seeing the very worst of the Israelis because I would have to say I kind of get it in a way now because if their existential existence is under threat. They've pissed off so many people, especially in the Middle East, that they're people that want revenge and want after them. So that means they have to resort to more and more wild stuff, extrajudicial assassinations, bombing neutral countries, intimidation.
Right. So it's a massive overreach. Like that's what we're witnessing. So my question to you, right? Like, where's the Rubicon here? Like, have they crossed the Rubicon yet? And if not, what is the Rubicon?
Every day it's something new, right above there under our favorite source, open source intel, the braggarts on this stuff, is they're flooding the tunnels and the Gaza Strip with seawater. Now, everybody put on your thinking cap on this one. That sounds like, well, all right, you're going to finally flush those terrorists out of their tunnels, right? But what does it really mean? Anybody in comments? Let's see if we can get anybody in comments that comes up with the correct answer.
All right. Russ is throwing it out there, chat. They're dumping seawater into the tunnels with the idea that they're flushing out the terrorists. What do you think they're really doing? Anybody have any ideas or answers to Russ's question? Barbara Boots says the Ben Gurion Canal.
No.
Ruins their drinking water.
Yes, groundwater. Yeah, it permanently wrecks the groundwater.
Green-eyed crow ruins their drinking water. There you go.
Yeah, drinking and groundwater for agriculture, anything. So, very good. Thank you. There's the because when the Israelis go in there and reoccupy, they can bring their own water with them, and plus they have they have like distilled or conversion out of seawater. They have plants to do that.
Right.
So they'll go in there. It'll be a much less. It won't be as nearly as dense a populated area, and they don't necessarily need the groundwater to reoccupy the territory, and it just ensures that the Gazans can't stay because it's just everything's wrecked. All their buildings are wrecked. The groundwater's wrecked. It's all on the premise of flushing out Hamas. Well, the problem is Hamas has got all kinds of ways of blocking this. You know, they don't need all their tunnels anymore.
Right.
So that's a cheap trick. And I'll tell you what, you go to this open source intel and read the comments, nobody gets it. These people are so out of it.
How many of them do you think are just bots?
I was going through and looking at, I think some of them are bots, but I was looking at who some of them were and trying to figure out who these people are, including a couple of them that kind of called me one lady from Wisconsin called me brainwashed for my input. They're just Zionists, you know. They're either evangelicals or they're people that have adopted the Holocaust religion.
So you went in there and mixed it up a little bit with them?
Oh, I don't do much because I don't have any impressions. You know, I make a comment and only 60 people see it. There'll be 20,000 read impressions under the lead article. I'll get in there early because the time of day I get up. I can get in there and be in really early comment and only get 60 or 7 impressions. And then I start engaging with people and it drops down to like 8. So no, I would, because I've got tools. I have knowledge and tools, but they have completely shut me up.
That doesn't sound too uncommon.
I mean, they wouldn't want to really debate me, have a real debate where there's an audience and people could chime in one way or the other. They don't want that. So no, doesn't happen.
Yeah. You know, E. Michael Jones, I mentioned this to you in a private text on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. E. Michael Jones was on Jason Whitlock about a month ago, close to a month ago now. And, you know, E. Michael Jones, he just lets it rip. Like, he doesn't really care. And he's really incredibly bright. He's a scholar. Like, E. Michael Jones is dangerous. And he brought something up that I'd never heard of before. And that was that apparently Israelis, and to maybe a lesser extent, but still in the mix, Jews connected to Jewish power are freaked out over this 80-year thing, where historically any Jewish power or Jewish / wouldn't have been an Israeli operation, but perhaps going back to, I don't know, Judeo-Babylonian times, only 80 years worth of being able to run an empire or a nation state. And he even brought up Russia, which was started by the Bolsheviks, who were mostly Jewish, right? And they were just overrunning everything. And then Stalin dies, and then after Stalin, everything kind of goes like this. So Ehud Barak has talked about this quite a bit, that they're freaked out over the fact that historically nothing that they've ever done has lasted past 80 years. And if you go back to 1948, when Israel was started, we're just 4 years away from that 80-year mark, right? So I thought that was interesting. And when you see the level of activity in almost kind of a mindless attempt to gain dominance, move people out, whatever, it really feels like a group in a portion of that society that has no idea what they're doing. They're paranoid. They've got this 80-year curse hanging over their head. They're kind of out over their skis. And I don't think they have an end plan or an end goal. And that's what E. Michael Jones also said. Like, this is all
they're very reactive.
Very reactive. That's where I was going. It's very reactive now. Yeah, so I wanted your thoughts on that.
And the most important point to make of that is that it's also infected the United States. And I don't know, there's 80-year cycles that apply to the United States, but you don't want to be part of their 80-year routine when it's going down.
That's a really good point. Yeah, really good point.
I think they're going down, so I don't know if there's any kind of like a cycle to it, but they're going down.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to skirt this.
No, and again, just quoting E. Michael Jones, the world now is witnessing. They're seeing everything. They're seeing everything that's happening. I guess my question is where is that Rubicon, right? Clearly, we haven't crossed that Rubicon yet. Amidst all of what we're seeing, we haven't crossed that Rubicon yet. But when it happens, it's probably going to be pretty hard to look at. And that's the point of no return.
Yeah, it probably ties into the expanded regional war.
You want to get into that, where they're going next?
Well, yeah, let's take a look. Let's pop back and take a look just to kind of show you also what they're doing to Gaza. You see the open source intel above there, the Alistrad Street before and after.
Let me see what we got here.
Then he mockingly says, "Dear Sinwar," Sinwar is of course like Shlomo, like an Arab name. Was it worth it? So this shows their handiwork.
Is this the flooding of the tunnels?
No, above that it says Al-Rashid.
Yeah, I got it.
And you see what that was like a boulevard in Gaza. Look what they've done to it. You should be able to rotate it.
So that's where it started?
What do you mean?
The boulevard?
The boulevard is one of the key boulevards of Gaza. I think in the coastal area, near the coast, on the right.
Yeah.
You see it in normal times. Now you see what it looks like now.
Oh my God.
They have just bulldozed. They've gone in there and taken this whole area to create these buffers, and taken the ruins out and just left a mud patch of nothing. It's just like,
wow. I mean, it's
amazing.
It's really like kind of hard to believe.
And it's even more powerful because there's one of them that you can actually rotate this image and go around a 180-degree circle around that, and it just shows the extent of it in all directions. So that's this open source retail. Got it.
كان من أحلى الشوارع في شمال قطاع غزة. كان يعني منتجعات سياحية وشاليهات. الاحتلال دمرها بالكامل، دمر كل المنتجعات السياحية كما تشاهدون. دمار كبير جدا للمنتجعات السياحية ومنازل المواطنين.
Wow.
Now, why would you brag about this? Why would you just? It shows the hate, and it's mutual. It's mutual. You've created a mutual hate society because they hate you as much as you hate them. Now, why would the United States want to get anywhere near this? But the United States bears responsibility for what's happened.
Nora Rashid says she could translate. Let's see. Let's play it again.
But I mean, drawing your attention to the poster of this thing. You want to play it again?
So we have someone in chat who says that they can translate that. So let me see. Let's see if she could hear that. Warlanda, I have a question. Why will surrounding countries not allow the Palestinians to come there? I have my theory in that. Russ, you want to?
Go ahead. I mean, it's just it's expensive. It's a lot of responsibility. Same question could probably be asked of the United States. When the United States let them all in,
it's also theoretically a sign that they would be complicit with Israel.
Right.
That's the other part.
You're playing along with ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
So Israel has to create such bad conditions, including destroying the groundwater and just raising everything, like salting the earth, literally, so that there's nothing there. And it would be a huge reconstruction project. So you know what's going to happen at the end of this. They'll just kind of say, all right, well, there's some international money available to resettle you somewhere, and you can start anew, but we're not going to do it in Gaza. So that's how Israel gets their objectives of ethnically cleansing the country. Then they can concentrate on Lebanon in the north and the whole, the sea to the river philosophy of West Bank. They're really picking up the pace in the West Bank now too.
So Nora comes in. I witnessed Palestinians in Syria and Lebanon. They are treated as low-level citizens. Syrians won't trust because of the Golan Heights. So take that's for what it's worth.
Well, they're probably going to be radicalized. All these kids that are surviving these bombings, that have survived, and their parents are dead, and their brothers and sisters, they're radicalized for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you move them to Egypt or somewhere, and then Egypt has to deal with that. A bunch of radicals.
W.C. Ray asked the question, so are the Israelis the greatest terrorists the U.S. has ever sponsored?
Clearly.
Who's the top and who's the top or the bottom in that relationship? That's the question. Who's the top and who's the bottom? D.E. Secone brings this to the table. Israel's not letting them out. They're penned in. Thousands of Palestinians live in Jordan and Egypt already, as an example. What you say is untrue. MSM talking points. So apparently but how many though? Right. And then, by the way, what I've said about that they don't want to be complicit with the Israelis, that does not come from the MSM. That came from
the Palestinians are in.
That actually came from Max Boot. That's his opinion. That came from Max Boot, who is somebody, not Max Boot, Max, what's his name? The other guy from the Gray Zone. Max Boot's
Max Blumenthal.
Max Blumenthal. That came from Max Blumenthal. That's his point of, that's his idea theory, right? And he's certainly not MSM.
No. The ones that the Palestinians that are in Jordan, those are the ones that left during previous wars. See, there's been a few rodeos here that have come into town in different stages.
Yeah,
they've already extracted the Palestinians out of the country and now we have a new one. This is a big one too.
Yeah. All right. So I have heard now, although I'm sure it's just absolute bullshit, but the Biden administration has said that they're going to start to sanction like the West Bank or something like that. I mean, have you heard? I mean, it makes no sense to me, but now they want to place sanctions.
Well, they're basically warning the settlers that are kind of running amok, because anybody can. They're getting the word that the settlers, Israeli settlers, are just, they're death squads. They're going around armed. They got assault rifles. They go into the Palestinian communities. Palestinians fight back sometimes. Yeah. So that's another war erupting.
Yeah.
And so the United States has tried to warn them down, talk them down, but they said that we'll sanction you. Well, what kind of products do Israeli settlers sell to the United States? That's a worthless measure.
Soda machines.
Is that
it? They do. They make those soda machines. Anyway,
well, it's not like sanctioning Russia for their weed and oil. I mean, come on, big deal. Right. You sanctioned some Israeli settlers.
No, it's just a lot of sound and fury. That's all it is. All right. So what else do you got here, Russ?
Okay, we got the latest.
I wanted to give people a visual about the flooding of the tunnels, which you actually have something that illustrates that. So this is from this open source intel.
Yeah, that's Israel. Those are Israeli sources. I go to them a lot because like I say, they brag about it. They think it's wonderful.
Very open source, aren't they? They're very open about it.
Yeah. And so then you got the latest Peace Index survey study of the 98% of Jews think that Israel's defense forces have used the right amount of firepower in Gaza or not enough.
Look at these comments. Now we will find out if the swimming lessons were effective. They might want to use concrete to seal it and seal it one and for all. Inject them with raw sewage. After, render them unusable and then demolish. Man.
Well, I got to be fair. I also got to be fair. The hate runs both ways. I mean, you can see similar comments made by the other side. So the emotions are running high and the hatred is running high. They've really built up huge amounts of hatred on both sides. And I don't see how you diffuse that without having a lot of people on both sides die or get killed.
So what's the status of these so-called hostages? Because this person's asking, what if the hostages are in the tunnels? Like, exactly. What's up with that?
Well, yeah, what if they're in the tunnels? Exactly.
I mean, but do they still have them? How many are there? I mean,
how many have died by bombings? The Israelis are claiming that 60% of Hamas has been killed. Well, most of that would have to be in bombings. Using those big 2,000-pound bombs, dumb bombs. Wow. So that's going to kill the hostages too. So I don't think there's any hostages. I think they've been bombed and killed. That's all fraud too.
Here we go. Somebody is sourcing the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston as Moses and the wall water collapsing in the Red Sea. Oh, there we go. Somebody's thinking here salty water will do more damage to the environment long term. That's actually true. But I guess they can do some desalinization and reclamation, I suppose. What else you got, Russ? Where do you want to take us?
Okay. Get moving here.
You got this Glen Greenwald piece here around Nikki Haley, people that are behind us. You want to bring that up?
Yeah, we got to go through all that definitely, because we got to show the money behind all this, and also the immigration crisis. So I'm just trying to figure out the right order. I'll make sure I've got everything here. I had one that was taken down, shows them, looks like people that had been maybe shelled with artillery, dead kind of in this alleyway and sort of behind these buildings. And they took it down. But it looked to me like there were people that were sheltering during the winter in the backyards of bombed out buildings. So you got bombed out buildings, and you got these sort of backyard areas, little spaces that people can kind of shelter in and maybe go into the ruins during the rains. They shelled them, killed a bunch of them. Looks like about 20 or 30, just old men, women, just laying there on the ground. Horrific scene. They removed that. But I'm not afraid to show. I'm not afraid to show our audience. I'm not backing down on this stuff.
Let's see.
You see it there. It looks like the civilians they slaughtered were sheltering during the winter. Show this thread and see if that's even there. See if it's even there.
Let me see. Hold on. I got to expand the comments here. Hold on. Let's see. We've got Arya, Forces Clash, Time, Person of the Year. Let's see. Shibli Telhami, Jake Shields, Joe Biden, U.S. taxpayer, War Crime Watch.
Let's go ahead and get caught up on some of the combat footage.
Okay. So this is what's happening on the ground. And here we go.
And I think the militias, as I call them, have really adapted, and they really close in on them. Now look at this guy. This is amazing. This is amazing. Watch what happens here. It's like a scene in the Matrix.
هيا اضرب.
Here we go, the doorway again. There's the doorway scene again. We go back in the interior of the room and shoot through the door as these tanks roll by. Kind of a dangerous shot. See, they're a lot closer than they should be.
Yeah.
So all the debris flies right back at them. So you got to be pretty brave to even take that shot.
So are the Israelis using drones?
Yep.
In all this?
You can hear them constantly. Anytime you look at the footage, you can hear the drones every second going overhead. But what can the drones do in that situation? They're inside the buildings, setting up a firing platform, and just waiting for them to come by. And they really know how to use those weapons, as we've illustrated before. That's why this has taken so long and such a difficult fight. And the Israelis are pulling out.
They've pulled out?
They're not entirely pulled out, but they pulled out a lot of their forces and seem to be sending up to the north to try to get into it with Hezbollah. Well, good luck with that one. You can't even handle Hamas.
Let's do another one here.
How about the sniper one down the bottom? This has got to be demoralizing. Okay, there's the equipment. See, they're just going around with this equipment, stripping everything out.
Yeah.
Those aren't even tanks, so those are really vulnerable. Sniper.
Let me stop this just for a second. All right. So if you have an issue with violence here, and if this triggers you, You may just want to step away. I haven't seen it, but you may want to step away for the next 30 seconds. Just giving you a little warning here. All right. Here we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the screen's not moving.
Screen is frozen. Hold on. That's interesting. All right, hold on. Let's see. All right, Russ, I'm going to reboot. Google's froze. I'll be back, and we'll take this up. It'll take me 15 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, let's go back.
Okay, the important thing to be mentioned, the guy that they snipe here at some distance that they kill with a sniper round is the commander of this whole brigade. So somehow they got the intel on this guy. That's pretty amazing.
All right, we're going to start from the beginning again. Here we go.
Well, 55 seconds if you want to pick up the sniper shot.
Why would this guy come out and do that with a handgun? That's just stupid.
Okay, so this guy that gets hit is a commander of this whole unit. So they would have to have intelligence to even know he's there. They just took out a top commander of the IDF right there.
Okay.
And that takes intelligence.
That shot is between the helmet and the backpack. Gets him right in the neck. That is that's a direct hit. I mean, that is somebody who knows what they're doing. Right, the angle of that shot,
both in terms of the shot and the intel to get this, know who this target even was. He doesn't go after the other two; he goes after the head guy.
And it's got to go right in here, right? Not here, not here, right in here, and that is very specific.
I don't hear the Israelis talking about this stuff too much.
Wow.
I think they bit off more than they can handle, and they want to expand this war to Iran, and they want the United States.
Okay, short of drawing America into the war and into the fray, which we know is on the table. Short of that, where are they going to get the troops to do this? They're taking losses. They're having issues, probably with some degree of morale. Like, where are they going? Are they going to get these border migrants inducted in the military and ship them over there?
You have to have officers too. The Israelis are losing officers, as is illustrated right here.
That's brain trust.
Yeah, that's their best soldiers, and then they're taught now. Okay, let's shift to the north. So now you've got the Israelis are saber rattling about going after Hezbollah. They're telling Hezbollah to withdraw to north of the Litani River. Really? You think that they're going to pull back for you? Hezbollah calls them a TikTok army. So there's total derision on both sides towards the other.
Right. Right.
It's sort of like come and get it. And then meanwhile, the United States is now saying that within the next 24 hours, they're going to go after a bunch of so-called Iranian-backed militia in Syria and Iraq. They're going to go after them with aircraft. Well, I'm really interested in this part of the war.
Yeah.
And you know why? How many S-300 air defense missiles do these guys have?
Right.
Nobody knows. That's the Russian state-of-the-art air defense missile.
Oh, the S-300s. Those things are. Yeah. That's the ground-to-air defense missile system. Yeah,
if we go to my article, War on the Lebanon Front, we can kind of look at some of the new weapons that are going to be employed. These RPGs have been effective enough. These snipers have been effective enough. And now let's take a look at what the Hezbollah and the militias have. War on the Lebanon Front about to begin.
All right, where's let's see where we have
at the bottom.
All right,
bottom of your DM.
There it is, right there. That's an article. Okay, good. Let's break this down.
Now, I don't have good intel on the S-300, who's got what and where they are, how many they have. I have no idea. I think nobody knows, but I have a hunch that the Iranians and the Russians have loaded to bear these militia with these S-300s. And the United States is going to start flying over these areas, and they're standoff weapons. They can be set like 100 miles behind, ahead or behind the target aircraft.
Right.
So they can roll in real quick, fire them, and they're sort of heat-seeking, and they're very tough to defend with. So if you start hearing stories of U.S. aircraft being shot down left and right, that's going to put a whole new dimension on this. And maybe the United States will back down if that happens.
Maybe. All right. So where are we in the article here?
Okay. So I have the prediction, kind of a prediction or thought on the S-300. I predict with high certainty that Hezbollah is loaded with anti-tank guided missiles. This is much more powerful than the highly effective weapon of choice in Gaza, the RPG. And Hezbollah, like Hamas, has capable, motivated soldiers that can be used long range on other targets besides armor and is dug in and concealed. They also have Russian Onyx anti-ship missiles, so you can't get too close to shore. Stop bombarding Beirut or whatever. There's a picture of the missile. So you can kind of haul it in on a light truck, it looks like, right?
Yeah, let's look at this video.
Of the S-300? Okay.
Yeah.
They're two.
It's interesting. So they have a bit of a soft launch.
Yeah, a tube. So the U.S. and Israel are going to have to deal with this. So I don't think the days of them just flying over Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, I think that's over.
Well, the turning point in the war Let's see. Here we go. The turning point in the war with Syria is when the Russians gave the Syrians the S-200s, which were I don't think they have as much range as the S-300s, but that was a big turning point for that war. Here we go. Let's get back to I want to get back to your article. Hold on. I guess that is the article, and I have it on the. Let's do that. Okay, so you think that they're deploying them now?
I definitely think they are. Yeah. And Iran has them. It's already been announced that they've given them to Hezbollah. The question is how many, how much?
Right.
And I don't think Russians have nearly the constraints that the U.S. has on the munitions. The U.S. is really constrained.
It's an interesting question. Like how much have they had to use during the Ukraine war? Right? Have they been holding back? Right? Have they only used a portion? I mean, I've heard that they only used a portion of what they could actually use in Ukraine.
Well, the Russians have developed really good surge capacity. The United States hasn't done any of that. I mean, the Russians have got to remember the Russians have been involved in almost a 2-year-long war. They've had plenty of time to adapt, create surge capacity, and just build the shit out of this stuff. The United States hasn't had to do any of that.
No. So let's read this article. This paragraph. You say even before the Gaza genocide went into full overdrive, Iran's foreign minister Hossein Amir Badalain warned, if the Zionist aggressions do not stop, the hands of all parties in the region are on the trigger. In comments reported by state media, Israel's wild-ass gamble concerning, this is the important, Israel's wild-ass gamble concerning an invasion of Lebanon is that various state actors have been loaded H to the teeth with cutting-edge weaponry, and that the U.S., facing an emerging anti-war movement and depleted munition stocks, will get involved to any significant degree. Huh.
Yep.
I mean, it just feels like an invasion of Lebanon is part of this reactive modeling. Like what's the goal? I mean, I know a lot of people are saying, well, it's all about greater Israel, you know, from the river to the sea, or from Israel to Georgia and Ukraine, right? Like, you know, we've talked about those things in the past. But in order for those things to actually happen, there are so many moving parts that are involved with that. And not easy, right? Like, they run the risk of being completely obliterated somewhere along the line.
Well, Israel thinks they can win by intimidation. I don't think that's true. The Gaza operation already proved that.
Henry Kissinger said he would not be surprised if that within 10 years there would no longer be an Israel. Those were his words.
So here's another key paragraph. An Israeli military security source stated before the conflict that Hezbollah had the capacity to fire 2,500 rockets a day into Israel. And they kind of figured that, you know, even if the Iron Dome is fully equipped and running top notch, that 90% of those rockets won't hit anything of importance. So let's say 250 a day going to Israel that hit something of importance. During the entire 2006 conflict of 34 days, that, as you pointed out many times on our shows, that Israel effectively lost, Israel fired 4,000 total rockets into Israel. Estimates of Hezbollah rockets range between 125,000 and 200,000. After 3 months of genocide, I write, it wouldn't be surprising if Hezbollah now has north of 200,000. I don't think that Hezbollah and the Axis of Resistance have been sitting out preparations since October. So this drawn-out operation in Gaza has allowed these guys to prepare even more weaponry. It hasn't been depleted.
Right.
And then I have the final one that I insist on showing. And I said, besides the Golani Brigade, they will enter Lebanon and fight Hezbollah with these goofs. Show that to our audience. See it? Right at the bottom, the last little clip.
I'm playing it.
Gotta get it on the screen.
Hold on. My bad. It is goofy. What the fuck are they doing?
This is the IDF, folks.
All right.
Sure to get the sound.
I'm sure there's an American version that we might be just as embarrassed to watch, but that's kind of embarrassing. What is this up here? Right? Like we're always watching you. What is that?
I wonder that too. That's exactly.
That's really fucking weird.
Let's sink ships type of poster.
Yeah, good luck with those guys.
Let's play it again. I love this.
Is he like a little rat or something? Rabbit? What the hell is that? They're playing animals, aren't they? It's like some kind of animal play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you better get the United States involved in this thing somehow. I mean, but we'll go to that next because we have the Zog control of the country and how that's worked.
Because this guy's like some kind of
mega donors.
He's like some kind of wing creature, like a little bird or something. He's a bird. That's what he is. He's a bird.
That's the idea.
Little wings, right? And then what is he? He's like a chicken?
Yeah, that's the IDF, and then the real soldiers that the IDF has are taking bullets in the neck from snipers in Gaza.
And then this guy's like a rodent or something. So they're doing some kind of animal role play thing. That's what they're doing. They're doing some kind of weird animal role play. Like, Russ, it's something that kids would do.
Right. Infantile.
Like that, that's the behavior of like a 6 or 7 year old. Wow.
Yeah, these guys are getting high. I think they've got a lot of drugs in their army, probably methamphetamines.
Yes. More than likely.
And the stress of combat's probably getting to them too, so they probably use even more drugs, engage in more.
Goofy son of a bitch. Okay, so what are you going to go to the taxpayer stuff?
Yeah, let's go to the mega donors from Nikki Haley.
Okay. This is Glen Greenwald.
This may answer the question. How this is all resolved will depend on how many American boys die in this war, this expanded war, fighting for Israel.
Give me 1 second. I just had it. Okay, so this is from Glen Greenwald. And the mega donors behind the Haley Super PAC. All right, so we have WhatsApp inventor Jan Koum, 5 million, investment manager Jonathan Jacobson, 2.5 million, Green Sky CEO David Zalek, 2 million, Bernie Marcus. There's a familiar name. And Paul Singer. One of the major backers, financial backers of
all Jews.
Unit 8200.
And some of these guys are like dual citizen type Jews. I think they all are.
I think they are. Bernie Marcus, doesn't he own Home Depot?
Yep.
And then Democratic mega donor Haim Sabin, who I believe owns Telemundo.
Yeah, media.
So these guys are all like
heavy hitter, mega big billionaires, almost single-handedly themselves funding her. She doesn't even need small donors.
No.
And even if she doesn't get it, it sends a signal to everybody, that there's big money to be had.
Yeah, there is. I think some of those donors are checking out. There was this funny headline. It was Reed Hastings, the guy who started Netflix. Reed Hastings pulls out of being a donor. Reed Hastings pulls out of the Haley campaign after Haley took a pounding. Right. And the gist of the headline is like he's not giving her any more money. So these guys are sticking around for the long haul. What's interesting is that Bernie Marcus and Paul Singer both donated heavily to Trump in 2016. I don't know where they are in Trump now.
I mean, I think this does. Okay, they try to be early backers because that's pretty valuable. Hey, I was with you from the very beginning. But the signal it sends out to any other potential candidate of a large pool of probably perfectly decent leaders and potential presidents of the United States, don't even try. Because these selected individuals like Haley, even though she may not be a successful candidate, garner all the money. So it's like a barrier for anybody else to run for office.
Right.
Follow that?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, you're kind of up against the wall with this Leviathan, this financial Leviathan. Back in 2004, when Ron Paul was running for president, I mean, he really revolutionized campaign financing and basically had this grassroots people that were funding his campaign in a really significant way that was, kind of in line with how the internet was developing at that time. And later on, Bernie Sanders would take advantage of that and raise a shit ton of money and just get everything from $5 to like $200 donations. But he got that from a lot of different people. Now, can it compete with something like this? No, but they were definitely, Ron Paul was a disruptor when it came to this whole campaign finance thing. But I don't know. It may not make the whole Haley thing. She hasn't fallen out of the race. She hasn't said that she's dropping out.
And Trump could blow himself up at any moment.
I made a prediction that Haley would be the nominee. And and I've been wrong before, and I could be wrong again, but she hasn't dropped out. And there are people who, in spite of everything that she has, gone through, which is basically lost kind of 2 primaries, and outing her past about, banging guys on the side and what typically another male politician would do, right? None of that has deterred her from getting out of the race. So we'll see what happens. She must know.
Well, the thing is that Trump is unstable. He's not a stable candidate. So if she's got the money, she can just hang in there and wait it out, play a waiting game.
Exactly. That's what I think as well.
And then all of a sudden Trump fails for some reason. Then she's got the money to really make a push. and nobody can. Who's going to challenge her then? She's got the nomination, and then the Democrats are. I think your prediction may very well come true.
Well, the Democrats have no problem.
It's too early to say.
She basically is touting all these Democratic Party lines. It has.
She's a Zionist-occupied government candidate.
Yeah.
Of course she's got a chance.
This thing was interesting that you found on the founder of OnlyFans.
Right.
I want to bring that up.
All these tech app guys. Very strange how that works. I wish I had a good theory why this type of character emerges.
The app guy?
Yeah, now OnlyFans is basically porno.
Porn. It's porn.
Yeah.
And he's Ukrainian.
Right. And he's donating to the pro-Israel lobby. Big donor. Foreigners.
Yeah, E. Michael Jones gets into this in Libido Dominandi, which basically traces the Jewish relationship with the porn industry, and in a pretty, it's just like so detailed and fact-based that you can't refute it, right? Every time you turn and look, right, that there's there's Al Goldstein, Screw Magazine. There's what's his name, the guy that started We Magazine. The list goes on and on and on. And here we go. So here's another example of that we have another guy who's a particular background, and his role is pornography and exploitation. And to me, this goes all the way back to like the Weimar Republic, right? When all that stuff was like just rampant.
Isn't it interesting how they're big donors?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this guy I don't know if he has a dual citizenship or not. I mean, a lot of these guys can get a dual citizenship easily, but he's not an American. This guy's not exactly from Kansas.
No.
I always ask the question, where are the people from Kansas in this donor network?
He's a digital pimp. That's what he is. He's a
cosmopolitan. So then below that at 7.89, he's got a list of officials from each state who limit our First Amendment. That's kind of interesting. Now, the BDSM thing, I think, is very important. Let's look at the map of the anti-BDS laws in the United States and think about what this means.
BDS also sounds a lot like bondage, dominance, and submission, right?
Yeah, boycott,
but it's boycott, divest, and strike. Isn't that what it is?
Something like that. It's basically the anti-BDS laws that they've set up, and this removes the checks and balances of your country. So if you pass laws where you can't protest against a foreign government or a foreign lobby or criticize them, this just opens the way for this Gaza genocide. Carte blanche.
Right.
You do whatever you want, Israel. There's no checks and balances on you at all. You've got 39 states enforcing your will. And if that doesn't show you that there's a ZOG in place, then I don't know what to say to you. Not you, Robert, but anybody that thinks that way.
DeSantis is,
they're all involved in this.
DeSantis is the lead paddle in that boat. Although Trump isn't far behind. Trump passed these laws, these quote unquote hate speech laws, when he was president. And we have them here in Texas. Greg Abbott is totally on board with this stuff. He tried to get Gab banned in Texas.
Right. And then next thing you know, and you wonder why you have a genocide going on, and the people running the genocide could care less because they know they've got the hook on the United States. So is this going to be enough to get the United States into a war where lots of American boys die? That's the big question. Well, if it happens, it's because of this. Because when the time comes, there's 3 killed in Syria last week. That's what's kicking off the retaliation in the next 48 hours. There were 2 Navy SEALs that were killed. So it's already starting to happen. Right. So what happens when 3 or 4 fighter planes get shot down? What happens when these bases get rocked or a ship goes down? And then every response is, well, we're going to get even. We're going to get even. That's how Biden responds to everything. We're going to retaliate.
Right. It's Hammurabi's law.
So it does seem logical that now would be the time that Israel would try to gamble on Hezbollah. Maybe it all kind of happened at the same time.
So AIPAC's in there, of course. Interesting. So Musk posted this in 2022, and then subsequently has been to Israel to talk about rebuilding Gaza. He was just in Germany with Ben Shapiro. Poland to visit Treblinka or whatever. I don't know what.
Auschwitz, yeah.
Auschwitz, there you go. So looks like Elon has taken a different little step here with his marching orders.
And put on a leash.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a little meme. I have a little meme, not a meme, but a little. What is it? I'll send this to you. Keep going. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So that's the controls that kind of maybe answer the question about will the United States get involved? I don't think the United States people want to get involved.
No, but I wanted to show you something, and it has to do with. I've come to the conclusion, I don't like Michael Flynn. I don't like it. I don't trust him. Let me see if I can find the Michael Flynn thing. I commented on one of his posts. Let's see. Should be fairly easy to see. So Michael Flynn was, here it is right here. I found it. Do his little screen share. And what I want to do is I want to show the response to what he was saying here. And this is why I think it's going to be very hard for them to get American men and women in the Middle East. May God bless and protect every single one of these soldiers, many on their first deployment. For those who've never served in uniform, this is what sacrifice and commitment means. And these men and women deserve our utmost respect. This is the Illinois National Guard, and they're sending them to the Middle East. These people are weekend warriors.
Well, yeah, look at all the women.
Lots of women. Lots of out of shape people, right? Kind
of older guys. Yeah, kind of older
guys, right? And they're coming from Illinois because they don't want to be sent to the Texas border. No, they want to go send them to go fight in a war. But if you go through this, look at this. It's you have no idea what you're getting into. No idea whatsoever.
Yeah, it's important to have this conversation because I'm not hearing it too much. I think people are sleepwalking.
So if you go through and look at the replies, so this is my reply. I said, "Is this something?" This is. I'm referring back to Michael Flynn. Is this some advanced version of Stockholm syndrome? Screw these wars and the sociopaths that start them. The military can teach discipline, self-respect, and competence in most cases, but then turn soldiers into mindless order followers as part of the deal. Of course, we got the former veteran, this dumbass, Tammy Duckworth. They tried to pump her up and turn her into a public figure because she lost a limb in the war and she's a woman, and she opens her mouth and it's like, think again. So look at these replies. Why are we sending them to the Middle East? Protect America first. National Guard, not international.
Wow, that's an interesting one.
What the hell are they doing overseas? They're supposed to be guarding the nation here. Send the government's kids first. Committed to what, though? Feeding the war machine? What's patriotic about that? How about let's stop sacrificing America's youth on the altar of the military-industrial complex and save the patriots for defending our borders? These soldiers need to be deployed to our borders. I oppose sending one single American to fight for the Antichrist Israel if you only knew what they think of you, right? Classified. Our son is on a second deployment. What do you say to somebody like this? People have no real idea what a sacrifice being gone for an entire year is. Well, don't go.
It's tough because you do have to kind of thank them for their service. You know, it's a double-edged sword.
It depends on what their service is.
Yeah, that's right. But now we're going to a new phase where they're going to die, so they have to look at that aspect.
Why is the state National Guard going overseas?
Because they will die if they go into war with. If they go in the next phase of war, they're going to die. That's the very important point. This is not going to be a freebie. It's not going to be
last time I checked, the U.S. ain't located at the Middle East. Y'all can't even secure your border.
Yeah.
Sacrifice for Israel. What a shame. People are onto this, man.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to bring that up. Yep. People are onto it. And I guarantee you, the reason why they're responding to Michael Flynn is because they follow Michael Flynn. And Michael Flynn has set himself up as, being a patriot and somebody who was unfairly targeted and had to suffer the wrath of.
So these are effectively like Trump type supporters. So it's getting blowback.
That's right. Those are effectively Trump supporters.
Yeah.
They're not leftists.
Yeah. Well, even the leftists are going to give them blowback.
So this is an incredibly unpopular, unpopular fight that they're about to stage. I just don't know.
That means that the domestic front, if this war really gets going and there's a big body count, American body count, could get pretty ugly domestically.
Yep. Flynn is a Zion.
So I sent you the last one. I sent you was a deal on Musk. We could play that. I think it's pretty funny.
Annabelle Lee says Flynn is a Ziobot. Most of them are. I would agree with her. This is interesting too. Flynn was a liberal apparently. Maybe he had some kind of conversion after he left. But Michael Flynn's brother is still working for Obama, by the way. He's in the Obama administration. All right, here we go. So you just did this one. Is Elon Musk on a leash? Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, Elon, you don't want to be like James Forrestal.
So that is pretty amazing because that's got to be AI. And what they did is they took Elon Musk and superimposed him over Rowdy Roddy Piper from They Live.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And the message is don't be James Forrestal. Don't end up in some hospital being monitored over by a bunch of MK Ultra guys. And I think Elon knows it.
Yep. I think he does too.
Sometimes he acts dumb. He kind of plays dumb. He has to kind of role play with Ben Shapiro, just kind of sickening to watch.
Yeah. So I got into a bit of a text exchange with Asha Logos on Twitter, and it was around Elon Musk. And I said, well, anybody in a position of power would have to, at the very least, feign fealty to a superpower, right, that controls financial purse strings and has all kinds of other leverage at its disposal. So I at least threw that out there. That, of course, Elon couldn't come in with guns blazing, right? Like he would have to play the role, right, for whatever reason. But then again,
the Zios basically said, Elon, here's what we're going to plan for you. You're going to get together with Ben Shapiro and go to Auschwitz to do a tour.
Right.
Doesn't sound innocent enough.
Then he says he wants to be Jewish. Didn't he say that?
Oh, yeah. He said all kinds of asinine stuff.
Well, some people have looked into his background and that he might actually have Jewish ancestry in his background, which, if you went into 23andMe, we probably all have a little bit of something in us, right? But, yeah.
Not me. I can show you my 23andMe.
So, Russ, what composes your 23andMe?
It's a lot of Northwestern European.
Right.
And I got a little bit of the Sami Norwegian, the Laplander blood, which is kind of interesting. Scottish.
That is interesting. Totally interesting. My
dad's
if I could be assured that I wouldn't be cloned or my genetic material wouldn't be used against me, I would do it. But I've always shied away from those things.
Yeah, I know, because they can identify a certain genotype.
That's right.
Like mine, like a real rare one, and prepare a special concoction for you that wouldn't even affect anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Russ, I think we've covered a lot of bases today, from the absurd to the surreal to the tragic to the sublime to some extent. I think we've touched a lot of bases today.
Yeah. Did you got since we're at the back end of the show? Do you want to spend 5 minutes on can you spend 5 minutes on my astrological chart?
Russ wants me to read his chart. Look at that.
You got it.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on.
We haven't had it made anybody wait for a show, right? We're at the tail end. We got a little bit of time left.
Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. So Russ asked me if I could do his chart, and what I did is I have an automated. Let me see what we got here. I have an automated program called Time Passages. And you know what, Russ? I'm going to have to do this in real time. Hold on. Because I think I put your chart in an inaccessible place. Give me 1 second.
I could probably get it out of out of my email.
I'll get it out of you. Yeah, I'll get it out of text. Hold on. So we found out, of course, that Russ is a Capricorn. We're January 7th, right, Russ?
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff. Russ is a rugged earth man. A lot of earth. Let me see if I can find it here.
Aries rising. Aries rising.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of fearless.
Capricorn moon and Capricorn sun. That's what you had wrote on it.
Russ,
I don't know
type
the intricacies of all the little lines you drew on the chart. So.
Russ, type your details in chat again for me. In the message. Just do, because I'm trying to find it. Just be faster if you just put it in there.
Okay. I'll just give them to you. January 7, 1951.
Okay, here we go. Real time. Hold on.
So January 7, 1951. I was born at 11:30 p.m.
Oh, January 7th, 1951. Did you get that like printout that I sent you as well?
Yeah, they had the chart. Yeah, the whole chart.
Yep. Okay. And what time? 11:15 p.m.
Yeah, 11:30 p.m.
11:30. It
In
was Washington. Where was it?
Manhattan, Kansas.
Manhattan, Kansas. Look at Russ jumping into the deep end. Okay.
Yeah, everybody that's not interested in this can leave, but a lot of your viewers are interested in this stuff.
Oh, they're totally interested in this stuff. Okay, let me do a screen share. I'm going to have to, let's see. Save, yes. Russ, desktop. Okay. All right, let's do this. Let me find your. There we go. Put that here. Oh. I'm going to have to do a different source. Hold on. Doesn't want to play nice on my computer. We'll go with astro.com. All right, since we're at the end of this show here, we can talk about things that are less pressing in some ways. What are your thoughts?
If you don't have it, I've got it right here. Just a second.
No, I have. Hold on. What are your thoughts on the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing, and what's going on with the Super Bowl? Because a lot of conservatives now are taking the side of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and telling people to leave them alone. What do you think about that?
Well, Travis did the Bud Light recovery ad, but it was actually a pretty good ad. Remember?
Yes.
He represented proper maledom in that ad. And his behavior is pretty good, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, he also did a Pfizer ad, which was
he did. And it could be that Taylor Swift is maturing a little bit and kind of needs a guy like that. So people kind of, I don't think it's contrived. They could be sort of an attraction there. That's how I kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Anybody think that way?
So 11:30 p.m. Was that when you were born?
Yeah.
Okay. January 7th, 1951, Manhattan, Kansas, 11:30 p.m. Okay. So let's bring this out here, and I'll put it up on the screen. I can just do it right now, right here. There we go. The big reveal. The Russ winter chart. It's a Libra rise, 11:30 a.m. or p.m.
PM.
Yeah, 11:30 p.m. January 2nd.
Oh yeah, Libra rising, right? Okay, yeah.
Libra rising, yeah. All right, so there you go. That's Russ in all his glory. New moon in Capricorn, so sun, moon in Capricorn. Fourth house, and you have traditional values. Like people that have fourth house planets, like the sun and the moon, tend to have very traditional values. And you have Mercury also in Capricorn retrograde. Since I know a little bit about you, I think it's kind of interesting that you were headed in one direction politically for a very long time, and then kind of later in life, which is a very Capricornian sort of trait,
an awakening.
Your mindset changed.
Yeah, awakening, I call it.
Awakening, you had a reversal of the mindset. And I think that's very much aligned with this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. You also have Mars in Aquarius and Venus in Aquarius as well. So you have some Aquarian energy in your chart, which is kind of rebellious, and in a lot of ways, kind of going off into places that other people may not want to take a look at in a lot of ways. Also, I think the internet shows up really big in your chart, especially with Uranus near the midheaven, and the creation of your website, which is an internet tool. And again, it's, you have Cancer up at the top of the chart, and there's this reversal, right? And a reversal to kind of older values, more traditional values, which is what Cancer represents. And you got this Jupiter-Uranus trine, which is great. And people who have Jupiter-Uranus trines are able to see things outside the box and to make connections in a very different kind of way, right? And also because I think you're a Capricorn, and Capricorns tend to have very different sort of, third chapter experiences in their life. They tend to lighten up more, and they tend to experiment a bit more. And it feels like more of your Jupiter-Uranus trine would probably be accessible when you're kind of coloring outside the lines, or willing to look at things in ways that you hadn't looked at them before. So you would have more access to information in an unusual way. Now, that didn't mean that you didn't have access to that before. You just had it in a different kind of way. In the financial world, if you were looking at trends, the Uranus-Jupiter trine would give you an interesting insight into looking at data points from other angles that other people may not be able to see. And then you crunch that.
I'm a little bit of a contrarian.
That's kind of a contrarian. The Mars part is contrarian, but it's the Jupiter and Uranus work together in a way that's really interesting and gives kind of breakthrough insights. And I think you have to be a bit of a contrarian to get to those insights. And you've got Saturn on your ascendant. Boy, that is text. That's text, because Saturn's the father in the chart. And when Saturn's on the ascendant, the father leaves a very lasting and binding role on the individual. So you have the mother down here in the fourth house.
My dad lived so long, it's kind of hard to avoid him.
Well, that's another part of Saturn too, right? It's very Capricorns and Saturnian figures, tend to live for a long period of time. And I also think that justice, fairness, and balance are a big part of your chart as well. Like when I asked you about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, you had a pretty balanced kind of answer to that question. I think you have a really interesting chart. And I think there's a lot of loyalty in your chart too. You've got that Venus-Saturn trine right there, and Venus in Aquarius. So you're open to different kinds of relationships with different people. They don't have to fit into a cookie cutter mold with Venus in Aquarius. And you move to another country. So that would also, I think, be pretty interesting in terms of Venus here in the fourth house that would show up with, just different kinds of people outside of your frame of reference. Let's see what the
That's
chat
interesting.
says.
It's interesting.
Let's
I
see
think
what
what
the
you
chat
said.
says
I think
about
what you
this
said has some good insights into me.
He's got transit Saturn on his Jupiter. Interesting. Splenic projector, just like Robert. So Christine did your human design, which is a whole different thing. And you are a splenic projector like me. I'm a splenic projector. That's a whole different discussion. And you're a 3-5 and I'm a 2-4. No wonder we get along, Russ. We're both splenic projectors.
Spleening's projector. What is that?
Okay. Well, we're taking Russ down the rabbit hole now. Right. Okay. So there is this system called human design. And there was this guy named Ra Uru who came up with this thing like in the 80s, like late 70s, early 80s. And in this system, there are 5 types. There's the generator, there's the manifesting generator, the projector, the manifester, and the reflector. And between the manifesting generator and the generator, I think it's around, 63% of the population are generators. And generators have their own energy centers. I think around 23% of the population are projectors. The projectors don't have any energy centers. And so projectors need other people to kind of advance their cause in some ways. And then manifestors, I think around 5%, they don't have their energy center, but they're different than projectors in that way or in a different kind of way. And reflectors, I think, are like 0.8 or 1%. Anyway, projectors are quite different. And that the role of the projector is to understand systems. And then through the understanding of systems, they can help others understand themselves better. So kind of the role of the projector is to help the generator see themselves. And each of the different, it's more than that, but that's one of the roles of the projector. And each of the different kind of identities in human design have what's called a strategy. So generators, their strategy is to respond because they have an energy center. So if something goes wrong in a generator's life, right, all they have to do is respond to the situation. Like my girlfriend's a generator, and when she lost the lease on her dental practice, I watched a generator in action. She just responded, tapped her sacral energy, and just completely changed that situation. I was kind of in awe of it. Projectors, we don't have our own energy center, so we have to wait for an invitation, right? So projectors can theoretically give each other invitations. So when I ask you to show up and come on the show, that's an invitation. And that's when projectors do really well, right? But not every invitation is equal. So projectors have to sort through the invitations. Manifestors have to inform people what they're doing. So if they tell people what they're going to do, then people won't have such a virulent reaction to what a manifestor can do. And then reflectors have to make a decision and wait 30 days. So there's some interesting stuff with human design. It has a little bit of astrology in it, but it's not completely astrology. So you are a projector, a 3-5, which I think is the heretic and the investigator, if I'm not mistaken. Christine could probably clarify that. But yeah.
Investigator. Winter Watcher.
Yeah. Venus chart ruler, he's got trans-Pluto on his Venus. How would this manifest? Oh, yeah, you got transiting Pluto on your Venus, Russ. Yeah, you might get married again. Look at that.
Oh, my God. I don't think so.
Either that or maybe all of a sudden you'll take up astrology as your third chapter profession.
Well, that's interesting. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and there you go.
Looks like we drew in some additional comments, so I appreciate that too.
Yeah, let's see what happens. That's quite a stellium. So yeah, there you go.
All right.
A little bit of disclosure for Mr. Russ Winter. Russ, you're a brave man. Brave man. Hey, thanks for being here. It's always great having you on. And I guess the rumor is that we might show up with Giuseppe one of these days. So that might be interesting.
Yep. Okay. We'll see. Well, I guess we'll see you again with Giuseppe then.
Yeah. And then I'll clearly see you on the first Friday of next month. All right.
Okay. See ya. Bye-bye.
You take care. The great West Winter, everybody. There he goes. Great having him on the show. I'll be back on Sunday night. Look at that. I might marry Russ. Oh, Saturn's Exalted. Very nice placement. Yes, I agree. Russ seems to have a few lady fans in here. I've noticed that. Projectors can have a motor, just not a signal motor. The Martyr Heretic. Thank you, Christine. I knew you would bring some clarification to the conversation. Oh, by the way, Jasper sighting. He's been here. What do you think Jasper is? I think Jasper is a projector. That's what I think. He's just waiting for invitations. There you go. When with Giuseppe? I don't know. He just threw it out there. All right, everybody. Take care. I'll be back on Sunday night. Sunday Night Astro Live. Don't forget to hit the like. Please hit the like. And don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have subscribed, hit it again and hit the bell because you invariably will get unsubscribed. All right. Stay clear. Keep your hearts open. I'll see you on Sunday night. Bye for now.